here now so we can get going. I'm Hannah. I'm an organizer with ROP. So nice to see you all and be with you tonight. Thank you so much for just taking space in the middle of all that's happening to get together with other folks to learn and share in this moment. I know that there's so many demands on so many of y'all's time right now, so we're grateful to be here with you. We just wanted to start off actually by acknowledging like what a hard moment this is. Oh my God, I know so many of us are just like reeling and struggling. And so just wanted to start and take a moment. I know it's a little difficult when we're on Zoom and we can't be together in person, but like just to take a moment to feel being together tonight and like being connected in our grief and our care. So we'll just take a minute and like best you can, like we can kind of look each other in the eyes, like notice the other folks who are on here, who are also like doing this work and showing up for each other. So we'll just take a second and take each other in. Love seeing all y'all waving. Thanks, everybody. That really means a lot. It's so hard not to be able to be together in the same ways through all this, isn't it? Wow. Well, just to start off, you know, I think so many of the folks I'm seeing on here I know are long-term ROPers, but there's also some folks I'm seeing on here who I know are relatively new to ROP. So first of all, if you're new, welcome. So happy to be with you. And also just a little bit about who we are in case that's news. ROP, so ROP is a network of over 70 autonomous volunteer-run human dignity groups all across rural and small town Oregon. I see a lot of folks on who are part of human dignity groups. If you're part of a human dignity group, just wave. Yeah, look at all that. So many folks on here. And our mission as ROP is really to strengthen the skills and resources and vision of our human dignity groups so that y'all can keep on doing the long-term work and be a vibrant source of democracy in your communities. And the staff organizing team, our work is to support and build up capacity for that long-term change. So thanks so much, y'all, for being here. We're happy to create this space with you tonight. We wanted to really have this space tonight for this call, just really to create, you know, we know that folks are dealing with so many different levels of this emergency, from like immediate evacuation and loss of homes and other spaces and communities to, you know, helping to house and support evacuees, to working with unhoused folks in our communities who are dealing with the impacts, hazardous impacts of the smoke, just kind of at every level. And we know y'all are in this work. We're trying to figure out how to engage and support for communities that are more impacted than your own. So we just really wanted to have time tonight to help hold each other's grief, first of all, also to share strategies for what we're pushing, both in terms of immediate survival and then also, you know, longer term, as much as we, you know, if we have the capacity to be thinking long term. I know for a lot of us, we're really still just trying to get through this, and that's okay too. So just wanted to have this opportunity to support and bring together folks across the state to share with each other. So tonight on this call, we're going to have a few minutes kind of at the front end where we'll hear from a few folks who are going to share about what they're doing in terms of mutual aid in their communities, and offer up some ideas about what they're sharing, as well as maybe challenges or barriers they're running into. And then we'll open up the call to all of y'all and just have opportunity, you know, to have conversation with each other. What are you all doing? What are you seeing? What are the barriers you're running into? What are some of the things that you're thinking about in terms of like our longer term organizing strategies? Again, if your mind is able to be there, and it may not be. So after that, we'll just open it up and dive into that conversation together. If you're new to Zoom, a couple quick things about using Zoom. If you're not talking, please do mute yourself. That will just help us eliminate background noise and make sure everyone can hear each other clearly. Please do feel free to leave your video on. Like even if you're eating, if you're like taking care of your kids and your pets, we love that. And also like we know this is a wild time and there's so much happening at once. So please feel free to like leave your video on and just be doing whatever it is you need to be doing right now. That is great. If you want to change the view for your screen, there's a little button that's at the top of your screen, or it might be at the bottom if you're on an iPad, that says speaker view. It's a rectangle with 3 little squares above it, or it will say gallery view, and it will look like kind of a bunch of little squares all together. If you click on that, you can toggle between the 2 different views. So that way, if you like want to be able to see a bunch of folks on the call at once, you can be in gallery view. If you just kind of want to focus on one person who's speaking at a time, you can be in speaker view. And then lastly, if you are on here and you want to rename yourself, you can click on the 3 little, if you hover your mouse over your own image, if you're on video, you'll see 3 little dots in the corner. And if you click on that, you'll see a little button that says rename, and you can put your name in. So feel free to put your name in if you want to, just so we can see each other and who's on the call. I think that's it. If you have any other questions about Zoom, or you're like, help, please feel free to throw it in the chat box too, and we're happy to help you troubleshoot. Awesome. Okay, I think that's it. Thanks again for being here. So good to see y'all. And I am going to kick it to Emma.
Thanks. Well, so we've talked to a few folks ahead of time about sharing a little bit about their work. And some folks said, yes, absolutely. And then things have come up since then. So we know this is a wild time for folks. We're going to call in a few folks now. And we know, obviously, there's so many people on the call doing incredible work that we're excited to hear about. But we're going to start with George. If you're ready, we'd love to hear a little bit about what's been going on for the Mackenzie River Valley community with renters and kind of community recovery as well. Are you ready to share? Whoa. We can't hear you. Okay, maybe we'll kick it to someone else, unless we can hear in a bit. Okay, well, maybe let's hear from Meg first. Meg, are you up for sharing a little bit about what's been going on in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, absolutely. So hi, my name's Meg. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I live in Medford. And there's been a pretty incredible network that's been created for mutual aid in the valley since the fires that destroyed Phoenix and Talent and part of North Ashland. There's a group that kind of formed to raise mutual aid funds, like Rogue Action Center, Rogue Climate, Siskiyou Rising Tide, and Southern Oregon Equity kind of have all gotten together to create a mutual aid fund, which is really great. And I've been working kind of within like that network, but on a kind of separate project as well, which is making sure that houseless folks in Medford are also supported, because the fires that tore through this area came up the Bear Creek Greenway, which has been where houseless folks have camped for some time. That's been like the primary camping spot. And also during COVID, that was what the county identified as the place that houseless folks were supposed to shelter in place. Just strange, because historically they've not been technically allowed to. And then when COVID came, they said actually just stay put there, rather than creating other alternatives for folks. So I had already been doing outreach with a group of people on the Greenway related to COVID supports for houseless folks. So when the fire started to move through last Tuesday, we went out to try to warn people, because it didn't seem that there was an evacuation plan for that area. And once we realized, both throughout that night and then the next morning, that really there was not a plan, as the evacuation orders were still kind of pending, there was really no plan to help people without transportation or folks with like vulnerable needs like that who are living on the street, to get out if that was needed. We became really worried about what that could look like, and also folks returning to the Greenway when there's still high fire danger, when there's potential retaliation because houseless folks and Antifa are being blamed for fires. We started looking at a lot of different options, and essentially folks decided to just go ahead and put up camp in a park downtown. So we have a little mutual aid camp that we've been supporting. We've got meals being served, we've got hygiene, we've got more tents are being put up every day. So I think we've got about 50 today, the total count of tents. But it's been kind of a wild ride. We are starting to get pushback from local police, although we've been able to kind of keep them at bay for the moment. But essentially, there's no plan for houseless folks. And much of the attention is going, well, not of course, but, you know, understandably, there's concern for all of the families who've been displaced from homes that were present. But in the wake of that, there's just been sort of a lot of ignoring of people that were already displaced prior. So we're just trying to make sure that those folks' needs are continued to be met, and that whatever solutions are identified are actually like attainable, and not just continuing the cycle of you know, displacement and criminalization of houselessness, especially as we'll probably be having more people without housing, camping and living out in our area. So kind of an overview of what I've been doing.
Thanks for sharing that. Would you be up for adding just the little piece you were telling me about the right-wing activity that you're experiencing?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's an important piece. So of course the police have not been thrilled that we have folks camping. But kind of more concerning is the militia-y, right-wing-y response. A lot of the same characters who have been targeting and harassing our Black Lives Matter and racial justice like protesters down here. And because many of the people that have been involved in the protests in this area are now actually helping at the camp as well, because there's some crossover, we've gotten we're starting to get targeted more by those groups. We've got people coming to the park, making their presence known, trying to be intimidating in a variety of ways. And we're trying to do some safety planning around that right now. And we have some safety planning, but we're concerned that, of course, as time goes on, that threat is going to increase. And I was actually just in a conversation with someone yesterday that apparently there's a QAnon thing that they believe that the COVID houseless camps in Portland are like Antifa war camps, and they think that that's where the paid protesters are like being kept during the day or something. And so they've had right wing, actually now they're actually like targeting those camps like in a violent way. And so I think I'm just really concerned that if it's part of that Q stuff, that it could then make its way down here too, which is also very, you know, it's a very popular thing, as you all know. So that's just another facet that we're dealing with.
Thanks so much for sharing. I'm still working with George to get a better connection. So I think, Jess, are you ready to share about what's been going on in South Lane County and North Douglas while I work with George?
Yeah, I sure am. Hi, everyone. My name's Jess, and I'm the director of ROP and an organizer with ROP. And I'm also calling you from Diaper Mountain in our community building center here on Main Street of Cottage Grove. I wanted to, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Emma and Hannah, there was an evacuee that came in, so I missed the kind of introduction to this. But a lot of what I feel like we're kind of working within in the context of here in Cottage Grove and North Douglas is that there's a lot of evacuees coming here kind of from all directions because we were surrounded by fires. And so families are coming here, and often families are being given vouchers to go to hotels in other communities, and those vouchers weren't actually good for here. And so there's a huge number of folks that booked hotel rooms for just a couple of days and are basically houseless because they spent the last little bit of money that they had on their motel rooms. And so we know that folks who have moved here because they fled and they're now living here are communicating that they are basically waiting for the air to clear so they can begin camping, because that's going to be so much more cost effective. And this is within a context of unfortunately, a very hostile environment for folks who are unhoused. Our city and our police are very sharply turning to the right in ways that are absolutely and explicitly demonizing unhoused folks and poor folks in new and pretty horrifying ways. And we also are facing a complete dearth of resources for those communities. And unfortunately, we have a community service agency that has insisted that they are the sole entity to help folks in need in the community. And while they are helping some, there's so many barriers that it has been actually inaccessible. And actually they closed their doors during some of the peak days that folks were streaming into the community and most desperate for help. So kind of in the wake of COVID, we've been having a food and hygiene supply and clothes and pet food and kind of whatever people want to donate and share, kind of like a giant free store in our community building center on Main Street of Cottage Grove. And we've been doing that since March, and we've done it in collaboration with the school district. And the vast majority of the folks who are coming here to get support are farm working families that cannot meet the barriers that most other service agencies are requiring. And in fact, one of the service agencies in town requires proof of income in addition to all of the other like ID and those kinds of things, social security number, that are very huge obstacles for people to overcome. And so if you are in a position where you cannot prove your income, like if you don't have a job and haven't had a job and you fell off of unemployment because you've been unemployed long enough, you can't access their services, which is just such a bummer. So a lot of what we've been doing is, you know, we've been working with folks being like, nope, we're here to share. And we're here to help however we can. And what else do you need? You know, and folks show up, you know, our lines have been really a place where it's a multiracial kind of crew of people that are coming together and meeting each other and forming relationships, getting in the line, and then a socially distanced line, just to be clear, and then coming in here. And so when the fires hit, we just really expanded, especially knowing that the doors to other service agencies were closed. We just said, you know, whoever needs to come by and grab stuff, come grab stuff. We're here. And a lot of what's been happening is there's evacuees coming from kind of every direction. And we've been hearing a lot of the horror stories about what's going on in their neck of the woods that I also wanted to share some context, especially for some of our urban allies who are on this call. So a common refrain that I'm hearing out of folks is that they did not actually receive notification that they were level 3 and that they needed to flee. And it wasn't until their neighbors came running over screaming that they knew that they had to go. And I just want to emphasize that because I've been lying awake at night wondering how many folks have burned up because we do not have this very basic piece of infrastructure in our state. We already know that we have a huge amount of parts of rural Oregon that don't have 911 dispatch available 24 hours for this kind of emergency. And we also now know that we do not have adequate notification systems. And we already knew that we didn't have communication infrastructure. And how much those are intertwined, I don't know. I also wanted to emphasize the sheer number of private firefighting forces out there, because we have places that have defunded fire departments. So we have actually seen, I have friends who are servers and bartenders, the number of folks who are coming in from these private firefighting firms that are sexually assaulting bartenders and servers. And it's very interesting because they have said explicitly, it's not the public firefighters, it's the private firefighters. And there's signs going up all over town that say, want to earn $300 a day? Join the private firefighting force. And when I've talked to my friends who are firefighters with different volunteer fire departments, they're saying that a lot of these private firms are running in and they're getting themselves into trouble. So the public firefighters are having to kind of like save their behinds. And also like there's just no clear communication happening between the different entities. That said, there's also a lot of this stuff where people are listening to the scanner chat, and Meg was talking about some of the right-wing activity. Folks are listening to a lot of the scanners because they're also listening for whether they should evacuate. And they are hearing firefighters and first responders and dispatchers help emphasize some of these rumors of Antifa, to help reinstate like some of these QAnon theories. And so it's actually coming from like kind of community authorities on these scanner channels. And this narrative that we kind of suspected was in there is really getting reaffirmed over and over and over again. So I wanted to just like name those as things that I'm seeing, and I'm both like seeing them here in Cottage Grove playing out, but I'm also hearing from folks in the McKenzie, from folks out in Blue River, from folks out in Lincoln County, from folks down south who are ending up here, that they're running kind of into all of this and just kind of throw it into the mix. I know that there's strategies about how to kind of chew on all of this, but I also want to have that conversation here today. That said, maybe the last thing that I'll throw out there that we've been doing is a huge amount of what we've been doing is trying very, very, very hard to get resources that are just completely bought out in this region. Really, I drove multiple hours over the weekend trying to find size 6 diapers, and I kept on showing up after the Red Cross had showed up to Costco and bought them completely out. And we know that Red Cross, unfortunately, has been excluding people who cannot prove that they have home addresses in level 3 evacuation sites. So I just want to reemphasize that as another layer of people who might actually have the means to go out and buy supplies are also being excluded because the shelves are there. When it comes to masks, when it comes to HEPA filters, when it comes to a lot of diapers are bought out all over town, sanitizing wipes, a lot of camping gear is sold out, so we know people are camping outside. And all of this is within the context of a city that is saying we don't have any evacuees here, even though the hotels are booked out, and that we don't actually have any unhoused people here when it's just a blatant lie. We have people who are suffering literally the worst air quality in the world, and our city is pretending, and our county also is pretending that we don't have an issue with housing in this county. And I know that that's rich for all y'all live in places other than Wayne County, because I know that we're one of the wealthiest counties. But that's part of what we're like smashing our heads up against here. All right, I'll stop talking now.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I think we got George on the phone now. We'll hopefully be able to hear him. George, can we hear you? Uh-oh. Still can't hear you. Can you try pressing *6 because we can see your phone?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, I'm finally in the queue.
Well, thanks so much
Hello,
for
everybody.
joining.
Yeah. Really powerful stuff that she was saying. I really enjoy that. I didn't get her name, but I heard she was from Cottage Grove. So I'm George Beverly Jr. I live in Blue River. Thank God our house is still standing, but a lot of our area has burned down. We're still on the EVAC 3. There's still fires going on all around Blue River and the McKenzie River corridor, as we call it, from here all the way down to Cedar Flat. If you're not familiar with it, it's the 126 highway that goes east and west, going up to Sisters and also going to I-5. So my background is I was a school board member in the McKenzie. Our school is partially burned, and they are wanting to start school. I have comments about that on another day. But the lady before me said something that was really interesting about the evacuation notice. When our fires hit us, it happened so fast people couldn't react. It was literally you had to leave right then and there. We got a notice because there was 3 fires that started. There was one that started up by what they call Mill Creek, and then they're calling it the Holiday Farm fire, and then there was a Blue River fire that formed. And it all happened because the gust of winds came down, and the trees hit the power lines, and the power lines caused the sparks of the fire. So that was the process in which we heard that we know. Now we had volunteer firefighters because, like she said, we have a lot of our firefighters have been cut back. So majority of our firefighters who have risked their lives, who've been working nonstop, are volunteers from the river, first responders. They're trying to get relief, and so we're a resilient community. But also, we've been connected with the Red Cross. We've been connected with. I'm going to be affiliated with the McKinsey CDC, which is helping with the United Way funding to rebuild homes and things like that. As far as what we're looking at our community completely gone. Our community store is gone. Our community post office is gone. Our community clinic is gone. And I'll throw in a caveat to that. I don't know if anybody knows me, but I'm a black man that lives in Oregon. That lives in Blue River, Oregon, and I'm also a veteran, a disabled veteran. I served 17 years in the military, and so for veterans like myself, there was a lot of veterans upriver that were really struggling to escape the horrors of this, and now we have to deal with more mental illness and more physical illness because of our mental illness that we have to deal with, and majority of our community wiped out. There's care, but like she said, there's certain criteria you have to have, and if you haven't been going to the VA or you haven't been keeping up with your PCP, then you're pretty much out of luck, and the VA won't help you. So just keep in mind for the veterans, and there is the DAV are giving away $500 to $1,000 for veterans. The VFW said that they're going to start giving some fire relief as well for people. I think the main thing for us is wanting to go back to Sierra Place and want to get started to go and rebuild. But we can't do that because we're still a level 3 evac. So I think that's all I have.
George,
unless anybody have any questions.
Could you share what you were telling me about the way that renters are going to be impacted differently?
Yes. So our community is one of those resilient communities where we went from a timber community into a transition to a retirement and tourist community. So a lot of the community's homes are already owned. They're Airbnbs, and so if they are being rented out, then majority of the people that are renting do not have renter's insurance. So if the house burns, of course the house owner will have insurance, but the person who had everything in it will not be able to recoup anything that was lost because majority people work very minimum wage jobs or they don't have jobs. And also, she also said, referring back to the young lady who was speaking, we have a lot of homeless people who live in our forests, like up towards Belknap and in between Kruger and things like that. We have a lot, especially during the summertime. So, and there's a lot of people who live on BLMs up and down the river. So that will add additional body count because those people are not accounted for. And so it's really important if someone is missing and they are from the state of Oregon, it's very important to contact the Red Cross and the McKinsey River CDC because they have put up a chart of finding people and locating people in there. And the main thing that we need to do is we're getting a lot of miscommunication or wrong information. So the wrong information would look like, oh, my house is still standing. Well, no, your house is not. And so it brings additional emotional stress because if the insurance, for example, my insurance I'm going to be covered because I have fire insurance. But if you don't have fire insurance in your in your policy or your home policy, you can't get any type of assistance to rebuild your home. So now we have people who are trying to start GoFundMe's and things like that in order to rebuild their homes. And then there's a lot of people who have no choice but to move into town. And once again, I'll piggyback off of what she says. The housing situation in Lane County sucks. Where I live, it's $1,000 to live in a 2-bedroom house. Like, that's ridiculous. I'm from Louisiana. That's ridiculous. Sorry. But we need to really push our legislation, all our senators, to get our infrastructure done immediately. I was fighting about this when I was on the board, because if we don't get our infrastructure right, that's internet being buried, our power lines being buried, our water sources are being covered well. The rural community won't stand, and that's very difficult for a lot of people because, for example, my wife has lived on the river since she was 2 years old, and her mother lived in here since she was born, and then her great-grandmother was there. So it's generational people who have lived on this river for a long time, and they've lost a lot.
George, I wonder if I can butt in. So I was who was speaking before. My name's Jess, and I work at ROP. And as always, I so appreciate all the brilliance that you bring and soul that you bring to heart that you bring to all these strategy sessions. I was talking to someone who evacuated out of Mackenzie Bridge, and she was told that they couldn't even go back and see their house until the 25th. Is that what's being told to everyone out that way, or is that, do you know?
Well, that's part of the miscommunications. No, oh my God. So the marshal and the fire department are telling people do not go back to those zones. Now, Mackenzie River, so I don't know how many people know where Dakotas is, but so they saved Dakotas and everybody's marked, in the blue sky, and everything from that on going up to the Mackenzie Bridge is not affected by the fires. So the plan was, according to the last time I checked from the Lane County that posted in our group, said that they were going to run power from so we have 2 grids, power grids. One is in Leeburg, they just built it, and one is in Blue River. So we have 2 power grids, and the one in Leeburg is down, and the one in Blue River is down. And so the one in Blue River is the one that sparked the fire. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to run a main line from that. They're trying to build a terminal, get a new terminal, and build that power going up the Mackenzie, going west. Going west. So up towards the Mackenzie Bridge. So those people will have power, and will possibly be able to go home. That's if we're supposed to have lightning storms, so they may not even do anything yet because of the lightning storm and the wind shift. So, and also there's been there's also been landslides, mudslides, and rock slides all up and down the Mackenzie 126. So even if people are traveling the side roads or by roads, they have to be very careful because of all the soot and all the loose rock that could fall on them. But they're asking us to stay away until it's a zero level.
Thanks so much, George.
Not a problem.
Thanks so much, y'all. Appreciate so much y'all sharing. And like Emma said, we had a couple other folks who are hoping would join us tonight. And of course, completely understandably, given the crisis moment we're in, things have shifted for them and they're not on. So we are going to open it up to all of you, turning the call over to y'all to be able to talk with each other. You can just feel free, I'll, kind of kick us off, but feel free to just unmute yourself and jump in. Hopefully that won't be too chaotic. We'll give it a try. And that way, though, you all can feel free to respond directly to each other as well. If, folks are experiencing similar things, or you all have ideas that could benefit the things that each other are naming on the call as well. There's a lot of us on here, and we want to hear from as many voices as possible. So we'll ask folks to try to, keep it to brief comments, just so that we can hear from as many folks as possible when you're able to. So maybe just to kick it off, we're curious to hear from the rest of y'all on this call. What are other community responses that you've been trying? What are you seeing? What are you engaged in terms of mutual aid projects? What's going on for the rest of y'all?
This is George again. Can I just add one more quick thing? It's important that we vote. It's important that we still vote. So what Lane County is doing is if you have an address going to Blue River, then they're holding the mail at the Walterville post office, and then you can use the Walterville post office as your place to register and drop your ballot off.
I'm so glad you named that. That's so important. Thank you so much. And I think that's the case for any communities. This is helpful to spread the word about too. Like if folks don't have home addresses, you can register using a different physical location at this time. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm glad you brought that up. Thanks, George.
People, this is Edie Koenig. I'm in Albany. People should know that they can go to their or contact the county elections office to discuss what they're going to do about getting their ballot. Any county.
Awesome. Thank you, Edie. Awesome. Thank you so much for raising that.
I have a quick question from Deschutes County. I don't know if anybody else is from Bend is on the line. Oh, sweet. And I'm just a volunteer. I don't actually represent any organizations. I just help moderate the Pandemic Partners Facebook group. But one quick thing is that there was a coalition of organizations that got a clean air shelter open for a couple of nights here, which was kind of a big deal. It was full every night. I think tonight is the last night it'll be open, unfortunately. But one thing that there's a lot of pent up desire to help in Deschutes County because we're close but did not have fire in the county. And that's manifesting as donations of material goods that don't seem to be all that helpful. And so one of the things we're trying to do is figure out how to direct donations to places other than the Red Cross. And because we can't, I'm personally interested in talking to anyone who wanted to help me set up a funding mutual aid. I'm really struggling without having a nonprofit that can lead it. Not sure how to help do that to get funds directly to people. And especially for folks who need hotels who can't access, even if it's just for clean air, there's just not the funds out there and people want to donate. But if there are ways that we could better organize and direct this pent up demand to help, we have a lot of people who are interested and I'd be happy to help try to organize some of that. We have the links and those things that are getting shared, but I don't know. I feel bad just throwing that out there, but.
No, don't feel bad. That's amazing. It's super helpful. Oh yeah, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. I'm in Redmond, so I'm your neighbor in Bend.
Hello.
Emma. Have you already talked to Embrace Bend?
Yeah, and so.
Okay.
Oh, is anybody from Embrace on the phone? Yeah, so Megan posted some things, and Morgan jumped in to be like, hey, let's tap the brakes on, because that hotel in Redmond was like, please don't give us any more donations. We have enough stuff. But that's sort of been the extent of the coordination there.
Oh, I guess you're just looking for a nonprofit to do some form of mutual aid.
Oh, and that's a really good idea.
Ben already does mutual aid, so they're already set up for that.
That's a really good idea. Thank you.
And that would meet a need for us here in Redmond who are chomping at the bit to figure out how to help too. Yeah. So yeah, so keep me posted.
Yes, absolutely. And Stephanie, I'm gonna shoot you a quick direct message to get your contact info.
Okay, perfect.
Forrest, did I see that you were trying to raise your hand? Did you want to jump in on this too?
Hi, my name is Forrest. I use they, them pronouns. I'm an organizer with the Lane County Mutual Aid, which is kind of Eugene based. Eugene and Springfield, and I've been trying very hard to push it to also encompass more of Lane County. I think that's a big thing that I've noticed in a lot of organizing that's happening in more urban settings in Oregon, is that it's difficult for people in more urban mutual aid groups to understand the need that exists in rural Oregon, and that those needs, they're very specific and often very different than what's happening in urban spaces. I know Lane County Mutual Aid, we have a couple different projects going on. We have a non-financial aid hotline and online application where we help coordinate non-financial aid needs. We have a financial aid one, which has been a really big development in the past month or so, where we partnered with the local chapter of the NAACP to raise and directly distribute funds. That's been really cool. Something like a need I've noticed with that is just that we have so much more financial need in our community than we do have financial resources and donations. So I think there's this huge financial need right now from our community that I don't know that we have struggled to meet even with nonprofit backing. What else are we doing? We're working on neighborhood network education. So we made like a zine on how people can connect with each other in smaller scales in neighborhoods to help facilitate mutual aid. And we were doing some jail strike support, but I believe that is ended recently. So that's kind of what Lane County Mutual Aid has been doing. I, as one of the organizers in Lane County Mutual Aid, I'm really interested in expanding our capacity to encompass more of Lane County, not just Eugene and Springfield, who we've been primarily serving, and like especially trying to use the resources that exist from being based in one of the more urban areas to help in more rural areas. Check.
Thanks, Forrest. Yeah, one of the things I'm hearing that's making me wonder, I feel like, and what a couple of folks are naming too, is like, is there a way we need to be talking or thinking about how, you know, as folks are gathering resources, we're sharing them to cross state, like, and figuring out more like centralized ways to communicate some of that stuff out. Are there other folks too, especially folks who might be most impacted right now or most impacted communities who haven't gotten a chance to type in yet that want to share right now?
I'm seeing Cassandra's hand up.
Oh, thank you. I'm missing hands up sometimes. Sorry about that. Feel free also, if I don't see you, to unmute and just butt in. Go for it, Cassandra.
Thanks. I don't like interrupting. I just wanted to offer, in terms of regional organizing, that Mutual Aid Disaster Relief helped us at the Willamette Action Collective set up, oh no, what's it called? A key base. And there's a channel for each region, and we're trying to use that as like a hub because we have folks from Symbiosis PDX and also from WAC driving to Jackson County. I think we've done, I don't know how many, Ben, how many trips have we done? We've done a few, but we want to get you all supplies. And they've suggested a few other structures that have worked for them during hurricane season. I think I dropped in the chat the idea of like Amazon lists for particular areas. Mutual Aid Disaster Relief is willing to like share those on their network so people can ship in supplies even from out of state. And the other thing we set up with Symbiosis is a Google form where people can hop on, list the supplies they need, and it drops a pin. And so those of us who are doing drops can see where the need is and drop supplies. And if anyone in Southern Oregon wants access to the back end of that, if that would make your lives easier, we'd love to get you roped in.
Is there any way we could organize support from the east side of the mountains to help? I think there's, yeah, I'd be happy to connect, and just want to throw out there that if anyone needs help developing that kind of stuff, that's sort of my role, is to help set up air tables. So I'm happy to help other counties if they need it.
If you want to message me your email, yep, I can get you connected. Yeah.
Amazing, thanks, y'all. And Alice, I see you've got your hands up too. Hand up. Go for it.
Hi, I'm Alice Morrison. I live in Cedar Flat, which is on the western edge of the Holiday Farm Fire. I was actually able to return to my home. We're on level 2 now, not level 3, and it's all still here, so that's really great. But I work for Friends of Family Farmers, which serves farmers mostly like small and micro scale who sell directly to their communities throughout the state. And I know that there is a lot of, it's still mostly in just like disaster, just like evacuation mode, especially with livestock folks, and seed farmers are trying to get a lot of their seed stock out. So I think that there might be opportunities for volunteers at some, and especially I think that that's like, as of right now, all the GoFundMes that people have set up have surpassed their goals in like the farming specific community, which is great. I'm still happy to share those links, but I would love to connect with other community groups in affected areas who might have volunteers who would want to help do farm cleanup after people are able to go back in. Because there's a possibility that some of these folks can salvage their fall crops and not go into the winter with nothing. Yeah, so that's, I guess it's not happening right now because a lot of these folks still aren't allowed to go in. But yeah, if you want to talk to me about that, hit me up in the chat box.
Thanks, Alice. And Arturo, I see that you're on the phone, and I do not want to put you on the spot. You may or may not be in a place to share, but we were talking yesterday, I know, about some of all the like amazing direct relief work that Pikun is doing, and I just wanted to see if there's any chance you'd be available to share a little bit more about that, if you can.
Yeah, thank you, Hannah. I hope everybody's listening fine. Sometimes this headset is not working properly. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I'm Arturo Sarmiento. I'm the station manager of KTUP 98.3 FM Radio Poder. This is the first community radio station broadcasting 100% in Spanish in the Mid-Willamette Valley. So we are exactly in the heart, in the middle of the Marion County. And well, we have seen a lot of people, a lot of Latino people, a lot of Spanish speakers being affected by these fires. Not only losing their properties, most people don't have real properties, more of them are renters, but what they technically are losing, many of them, is their workplace, their work site. So doing farming, you know, as a way of living, pretty much those places, the Marion County, are gone. A lot of people with no job right now. And one of the important things we are missing, and it's not for Marion County, it's not only for Marion County, it's for Radio Poder broadcast to 8 different counties, you know, Marion County, Paul County, of course, we covered the entire area, but some other counties like Lynn, Lane, Clackamas, Multnomah, Yamhill, we just partially covered them. But what we can see is there is no information in Spanish and other languages. So really, this is something devastating because we don't have any good source of information to offer to these people. So yes, I'm getting a lot of materials, but all these materials I'm getting is in English. So unfortunately, we're just 2 people running the radio station, and another person who only does is the technical staff because she doesn't speak Spanish. So technically, we're just 2 people in Spanish, and it's a whole lot for us to handle and translate. So sometimes we have to be translating already on the air, and it takes a lot of time. So we are now seeing from the officials this big effort about communicating with these people. And there is a lot of need. There is a lot of need. We are very close to the state fairgrounds, with this big shelter not only for people but also for animals. One of the things we don't have over here is enough people to help with the care of the animals, with training. And that's one thing. The second thing is we're asking people, if they don't have any training, they don't have any experience handling animals, please don't come to help, because we don't want anybody to get hurt. We don't want to add anything else on top of what we already have. So the main thing here, and this is the reason I'm in this meeting, is asking everybody on this meeting if they have information about resources, about ways to reach the Latino community. Please let me know. I'm gonna put here my email. And the main thing is we're looking for officials can speak, I'm sorry, in Spanish, and help us to communicate with our community. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you so much.
Can I ask
Appreciate
a
that,
question?
Arturo.
Yeah, go ahead.
Please.
Have you, there are two organizations in Marion County who I know are doing work, support for farm workers. It's Mano a Mano, well, I guess three, CASA, and then I'm actually forgetting the third one right now, but I'm wondering if we can put you in touch with them to work on translating material for the air.
Yeah, we are actually Radio Poder KTUP. It's part of Mano a Mano and
Oh, good.
Spoon. Yeah, so we're. A problem here is that everybody is so busy. Everybody's so busy.
Mm-hmm.
So yesterday I was at Pecun, and it's incredible all they have and the way they're helping people. I mean, you could see lines, long lines of people. Some people walking, some people on their cars waiting, and this is another issue because we have to keep all the COVID-19 measures on place, social distance, our face mask, trying to keep our hands as clean as we could. Same story with Mano a Mano. So really, the radio station is, even though it's a part of these organizations, we are semi-independent. So technically, we are like a organization in a small organization in our own, but still, yeah. So we would like some help, if there is somebody that can help with translating some material so we can just easily read. Because besides working on this, we have to run the whole radio station, and it is a lot of work sometimes too. But yeah, if you have information for different counties, we also know that we have a lot of listeners on the website. Our website, I'm gonna put it down here on the chat. It's we broadcast only 8 hours a day from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So you can hear over the air on 98.3, and we touch 8 different counties, and you can also hear from on internet. Just to give you an idea, the area we cover is once you are in the summit of Detroit Lake, coming down to the west, you can hear from Detroit Lake to the coast, and that's east-west. North-south, technically, we go from Tiger to practically cover outskirts of Eugene. That's the area we cover. But on the website, we have listeners in Bend, in Southern Oregon, in Hood River, many different places.
I just want to say my name is Anna Ford. I work for Unite Oregon, and we are working with immigrant and refugee communities in Southern Oregon, and in talent, huge Latinx mobile home parks, people totally homeless, and we're creating resource list in Spanish. So if you leave your contact,
Yeah, I want to put my contact here, and I really appreciate this. And yeah, we know that we have a good number of listeners in Southern Oregon. We are actually partners with KSKQ in Ashland.
Oh, okay, great, great.
Yeah. So I'm gonna write down my information right here. Thank you to everybody.
Thanks, Al. Yeah. Appreciate you sharing that, Arturo, and hopefully we can, share some resources across counties that way as well. I know y'all have such a big reach. I know that we were interested, Laura from Ashland, Laura Baden, I hope I'm saying your last name right. If it's all right if I call on you, and if this isn't a good moment, that's totally fine, but we were interested, when we saw your note when you signed up, you were mentioning sharing out resources through restaurants in Ashland, and I was just curious if you would share a little bit about that.
Okay. Yeah, I was referring to El Tapatio, which is a restaurant on the north side of town. We've had similar situations where maybe some of the people that have been really hard hit might not be comfortable going to the Elks Lodge and some of the other places that are distributing resources. So El Tapatio has opened up, and it's really good. A lot of people are coming in and donating everything, suitcases, Pampers, water, whatever you need. And now it looks almost like a flea market because there are little covered stations where people can come and either donate or pick up what they need. But I would agree about the, well, anyway, that's the restaurant thing I was talking about. Just to answer you, I'll keep it brief.
Thank you. I'm curious to hear, and thanks to y'all for sharing, and I'm sure there's many more things too that will pop up throughout our conversation. But I'm curious to hear from you all if other folks are seeing things in terms of militia activity in your area in response to your aid work, your mutual aid work that you're doing, and if so, like, are you trying out responses? What are you trying? How's it going? I'm curious if other folks have been experiencing that as well.
Not to undercut your question, but I'm also kind of want to ask Meg how you responded to that officer who asked if you're Antifa.
No, do it. That's great.
I said, I just said that I was a neighbor that was concerned about folks that didn't have support, and just left it there. I was in police liaison mode, so really trying to be de-escalatory and not respond the way I would like to. So that was my response. I think it was helpful, but we definitely know, so we know, we're trying to gather more info on this, but we know that some of our local law enforcement are definitely part of some of these militia groups. I spoke to a Jackson County Sheriff's officer just a few weeks ago at a protest while I was doing de-escalation. He was counter-protester there with armed folks, who informed me as we were trying to bring the situation down that he was actually a sheriff's officer. So, and that's not the first time a friend who's kind of a well-known organizer in the area also had a similar response from a different Medford police officer as well, asking them about their political affiliations before offering to help the situation. So that's another piece of it, the combination between the two.
I know that we've been seeing in downtown Cottage Grove, which is like not a dangerous, scary place. And when Black Lives Matter kind of kicked back off this last year, we started seeing older white guys that no one recognized walking up and down Main Street who were clearly concealed carrying, who were like staring in all the windows of businesses that were closed at the time and were clearly on patrol. And that kind of died down, but recently, the last few days, we've seen a fair amount of those folks again kind of pop back up, not the same people. And one thing that we've been doing is we work really closely with a number of faith leaders and faith communities, but in particular, the Presbyterians in Cottage Grove are kind of the raddest folks around. You know, they're like an old school sanctuary church decades ago and are really serious about walking the talk. And so they sent some Presbyterians out, and we've actually asked for folks to kind of have a presence, because a lot of those guys really shrivel when you ask them what they're doing, especially if you're like a cis dude or an older cis dude. They just kind of freak out a little bit. And so that's been really helpful, just having older like cis dude Presbyterian guys asking, you know, directly but politely, like what they think that they're doing and why they're there. And do they think that something really scary is happening? Could you explain what it is? And kind of, you know, picking apart their arguments about how scary Antifa is, or the people coming to town to loot. And, you know, the Presbyterian guys like have this story of like just being like, I don't see any looters. What are they even gonna loot? It's not like we have anything good here, you know, like like what are they gonna steal, right? Like maybe some cigarette butts. Okay. So I found that has been really, really helpful. And then I don't know if staff want to share some of the stuff that you're hearing out of other communities, but I've also seen some stories coming into ROP. And I don't think that there's folks here on this call, but they were seeing that checkpoints were getting set up in their neck of the woods, and they did some very like intentional, like, I live in this community. What do you think you're doing? Why are you doing it? We don't actually need this. And like actually being fairly direct around like, this is not helpful right now. We actually need to be preparing to evacuate, or we need to be preparing to help people, and redirecting and just kind of calling it out instead of letting it go unchecked. And they were able to kind of shut it down, just like asking questions that are open-ended, but also like pointed around, this is absurd that you think this is the priority right now, and we need to be helping our neighbors. Which really kind of helped, you know, dismantle their whole rationale of everyone in town's scared and we need to save them and protect them, and having people actually be like, there's no threat.
Emma, did you have anything to add to that? I can also jump in for a sec. I was just, it was reminding me actually of, in Vernonia, there was like, this was last summer, but there was folks who were patrolling, like armed militia who was patrolling the streets in downtown Vernonia. And the conversation that happened around that and the ways that folks were able to like start de-escalating that was similar to what you were naming, Jeff. They like went directly to folks and were like, what are you doing? And they were like, oh, it's emergency, like we're helping folks prepare for emergencies and protecting the community if something happens. And they were like, protecting from who? Like you're intimidating everyone, and just like really poking holes in this idea that folks had that they were like the heroes and going to protect the town and show up and protect people. And Vernonia has a history of really intense floods, so it was coming out of that like disaster, you know, response mentality that they were like, you know, thinking that they were going to be the ones that were going to prepare and protect the community. And so it was like that very direct intervention of like, no, actually we live here, and, you know, who are you protecting it from and how? And, you know, there are different ways to be doing this, and you're just intimidating folks out of being able to access what they need right now to actually be safe. And it was, yeah, it was really helpful at the time as well.
Here in Redmond, we actually had a Black Lives Matter Solidarity March planned for last Saturday, and it was postponed to this Saturday, you know, because of the fires. And I think some of the stuff that we're, you know, seeing is, oh, well, this isn't a good time for this. We're like, well, you know, is there ever a good time to, you know, you're always going to have a reason why we shouldn't be protesting. But there's, but, you know, as far as, you know, we're expecting a response, but thankfully we have a good relationship with our Redmond Police Department and city manager, and have been in really good communication with them, and they know a lot of the guys who show up, is what they've said, and so we're working with them to hopefully have a safe event, and maybe also combine it with, I mean, the groups that are our leadership for this event have also been spending this entire week doing volunteer work and collecting stuff for Warm Springs shelter as well. So so that's, you know, there's a lot of threatening stuff on social media for our event on Saturday at this point.
And Stephanie, you're connected to the Peacekeepers then, right?
Yes, they will be there,
okay.
and Clergy for Justice. Yes.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. So that's Morgan. Yeah.
Yes.
Just double checking.
Yes.
Yeah, Nancy, go for it.
So I'm listening, and this is something Susan, who's also on the call, was talking about yesterday, and listening to you talking about what happened in Vernonia, and it happened up in the Santiam Canyon too. You know, people are guarding communities, etc. We're not very long until November 4th, which is the day after the election. And I worry that, you know, if your president tells you you need to go patrol the streets, I'm not sure that de-escalation language is gonna be appropriate. I understand we're in the middle of a crisis where people need basic needs met, but to be thinking about, we need to have that conversation before then. And usually I have something uplifting to say, so this probably balances that for the next 10 years.
One other.
Well, actually, you kind of set me. Yeah. I'm sorry, this is Josh. That kind of set me up for when somebody says on one of the. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, it's a little bit delayed, sorry. Anyway, so the point being is when I hear people talk about, hey, our police, they know most of the counter protesters, that doesn't give me a high degree of comfort that the police may be completely on their side. I mean,
Uh-oh. Lost him now.
Did we lose you, Josh?
Josh,
I think we lost you. Chime back in if you come back on.
Hold on.
Sorry, Josh, you're cutting out. One of the other things that I, was hearing Jess mention, and I'm curious if other folks are experiencing this as well, is, the Red Cross and the barriers that they're throwing up to folks like accessing immediate help around like proof of home address and other kinds of documentation and or like evacuation. And I'm curious, like, are y'all experiencing that? Are there organizations in your communities that are like replicating those things too? Are there things that you're trying to counteract that and like just get things into people's hands? Just curious to like hear if other folks are experiencing that challenge and what that's looking like and what y'all are doing.
I'd like to chime in. Sorry. Hi. My name is Malik Alexander. I'm currently serving Field AmeriCorps for Douglas County. I'm down here in Roseburg. And back to what you're saying, what I've been noticing, like my grandparents trying to find places to donate everything they possibly can, whatever they can possibly give. And you're seeing all these big names are like being flooded with stuff that they can't even take anymore. And all these other smaller like organizations locally aren't getting they're not being publicized, they're not getting their names out, and so people don't know they exist. And like, you know, I'm lucky enough to work for a program where we kind of have that constant line of resource and communication so we can tell that to people. But there's so many people that are like, I don't know where I can send my stuff, I don't know where to go. And it's these small organizations that really do a lot of groundwork, a lot of the stuff that people don't think that people should be doing, but they're doing it, and they're not getting the necessary resources that they need to provide to the community. And I'm seeing a lot of that, and I've been seeing that since COVID started. I'm seeing it now even more with the fires. And another big thing would be something I wanted to talk about earlier, but we kind of drifted off into the really good conversation, but is a lack of communication. When the fires first started down here, and I know it was in a pretty decent place to be, it was taking hours for something to update, where it'd be like, oh yeah, well now after like 5 hours, you realize the city next to you is burned down to ashes. And it's like, why did it take that long for someone to tell me that? You know, it shouldn't take 5, 6, sometimes 24 hours to, you know, tell me that cities around me are gone. And it's, you know, nerve wracking. And, you know, I still have work to do. I still have stuff I have to do. So me waiting at the computer, I have like a tab opened up, keep refreshing to see if something I'm going to get some new information. Like if I have to leave at any moment, it's hard because I get more information from Twitter or the Nextdoor app faster than I would from my actual, you know, community members and service members. They can't do that for me, and it's really hard. And once again, back to the necessity to, you know, build up our infrastructure, to build up these programs that, you know, help create a direct, secure, and honest line of communication to the community here in the rural areas that, you know, some people don't have those things. You know, some people don't have access to that. Some people don't have jobs where they can, you know, communicate regularly with individuals. And yeah, I know, something that was really hard for me to like sit here in my house and just wait to be told to leave when the skies are black, you know. That's like, it's scary. But yeah, that's the end of my ramble. I appreciate everything. Everyone says some good stuff, so yeah.
Oh yeah, thanks. I think that's so real. And I know there's so many others who are experiencing that too. Just like this sense of constant vigilance and fear of like not having the communication systems and that there's no infrastructure to protect us, and so having to keep an eye out like that and rely on like these like other systems like you named, like Twitter and Nextdoor and other things. Yeah. And also so important about the like just the, like smaller organizations who are creating oftentimes like the lowest barriers and like easiest access to resources, but aren't getting resourced in the same way because the word's not out. Thinking about like how we create that. Sorry, somebody was trying to chime in.
Oh, it might have been me. I just wanted to just amplify this feels like a place where the folks who aren't as directly impacted could probably lean in a little, not to use a, you know, loaded term, but like, especially in places where smaller orgs aren't getting the resources that they need. Part of that is because we are not communicating with, like, we being like Deschutes County as an example, right? Are not communicating out anything other than Red Cross because we don't know. And so trying to figure out how to educate myself to find those links, or at least volunteer to be someone who can coordinate some of those for the larger places like Portland and Bend, where there might be more resources to direct that way. I'm not sure how to do that, but I'd be happy to work with a small group to try to figure some of that out, or at least test some options.
Yeah.
Or if it's already happening and I'm just not looking in the right place, that's totally possible as well.
Well, you know, I was just going to say, I feel like we're trying to do a lot of that with our social media. Like we've shared, Meg shared that MRG Foundation has a fund for the Rogue Valley, which is fabulous. We've been sharing that out a lot. We've been sharing out about all the different opportunities to show up at all the mutual aid sites down in Jackson and Josephine counties. We've been sharing, you know, all the stuff around Lane County and Marion counties. And we've been trying really hard to kind of have social media be a little bit of that clearinghouse. But again, social media has no investment in our movement. And we know that that doesn't actually reach the right audiences all of the time. So we've been trying to also email out links through our mailing list to thousands of people all over the state, including lots of friends and folks who are less impacted by all of this. So we're happy to continue to compile as much as we have. And so please throw those links into the chat. Please email us after the fact. We're going to compile notes and share them out. And we'll also figure out if there's some ways that maybe we can start throwing some stuff up on our website that's less of like, this was an email that went out, and we could just set up a resource page for wildfires that includes all of these kinds of pieces as they filter in, which isn't a perfect solution because I do think we need to have more than little old ROP. But you know, we're happy to do whatever we can to be helpful. And we're also taking direction from this call. So thank you for naming all of this, because this is direction for us to figure out what the state needs to be healthier. Along with Malik, thank you so much for naming all of that, because I feel like that's a little bit of what I'm running into with a lot of my folks in Cottage Grove and outside of Cottage Grove that work really closely with us for years and years, is that folks who are living just a few miles away from the Archie Creek fire are up all night and not sleeping and hyper vigilant and exhausted. And we have thunderstorms coming, and we're in a scenario where we have a really terrible fire chief. In fact, we made international news about how terrible our fire chief is, because he bragged about how much glee he would take in shooting Black Lives Matter protesters and was not fired for that. And so like our work's cut out for us here in so many different ways, but he's also telling people, don't worry, your pretty little heads will tell you when it's time to evacuate. And people out there are going like, our power's out. There's no cell towers working. How are you gonna communicate with us? That's not possible. And so a lot of what I feel like our rural community is up against too is also having so little infrastructure for mental health, especially in traumatic instances like this, and it's sustained trauma, right? Like it's not just acute, it's not just 24 hours. We're at like what, a week and a half with thunderstorms on the way, like George was saying, and we're being told, oh no, there's no thunderstorms. And it's like, everyone has a goddamn phone app, can go look that there's thunderstorms in the forecast. Don't tell us that it's not a thing, you know? So, you know, I think that there's layers here too of like, how are we building power, honestly, to shift some of these dynamics? Not just like, I mean, I don't know what this looks like. We're not going to figure it out on this call, but maybe we should have another call once we're out of the woods, so to speak, in a couple weeks or something, that is really specific about what are we demanding out of the state? Because I think that's so much of what we have, a negligent state that has neglected and abandoned rural communities to the point where we have to show up for each other in order to survive. And the governor will go and give addresses saying, wow, it's so amazing how people are showing up for each other, but won't even admit that it's rural people, won't even say the R word. So I just feel like this is a little bit of like, here's a good opportunity for us to really say collectively, like, enough. And when I talk to my friends who are in Portland, when I talk to my friends who are in better resourced, smaller towns, they have no sense of all this stuff going on with these private firefighting companies running around. They have no sense of the fact that you don't get any kind of communication and you can't expect to be communicated with to evacuate, and that it's actually on you to save your own hide and your own family. Like, that's just absurdity in this kind of a scenario. Just like it's absurd that we have whole parts of the state where you have to be your own vet, your own firefighter, your own doctor, your own, you know, because there's so much limited resourcing. Like this is untenable. And I know that I'm not the only one feeling that. I'm seeing lots of nods, so I'll stop ranting now.
Not a rant, that's so helpful. Yeah, and I see people in the chat box too agreeing about the idea of a call to like talk about those demands like longer term. Yeah, awesome.
So I want to echo
well, I think oh, please go ahead, Emma.
What Malik was saying about being like always on watching the latest news. I definitely talked to a few folks about joining the call tonight that were like, you know, I'm on level 2 evacuation, no guarantees. I'd love to be there, but like Warm Springs has the fires are shifting quickly. Like folks in Chiloquin are dealing with so much, and folks in Paisley too are just evacuated. So I love, Kristen, too, what you were saying about like folks that aren't in those communities really digging in and making sure that we're not just hyper focused on one particular community, but trying to hold the picture of all the different places that are being affected.
And I think with the question of getting help from the communities that are not immediately affected, there's a need to get accurate information about what is needed, because otherwise you're getting those huge amounts of blankets and used clothes landing on people's doorsteps that are not able to be, which just become more of a burden to process.
We've had to start repeating, like, this is not the time to clean out your garage. Like, yeah, you may have things that are helpful, but like people are asking just really, it's just hard. Like, if anyone has really good ways to communicate that, I would definitely steal.
Hey, y'all.
Sorry, bad timing.
No,
Go
please
ahead,
go
Sylvia and Benjamin. Just to let y'all know, we have, go ahead, we have time for each of you to jump in with a quick comment, but we'll have to wrap up in a few minutes. So just letting you know, but please go for it.
Okay, I just wanted to say real quick, yeah, Sylvia, she, her, I live in Eugene. I'm a part of an environmental group right now. We're obviously not physically affected by the fires, just the smoke at the moment, but we're trying to wrap our heads around how we can best support people. So I wanted to wait to the end to let everyone who is being affected use their voices. And I want to drop my email in the chat just so if people are looking for a big group that want to get hands on the ground and help in any way, we have a lot of people that want to help. Also, particularly with Southern Oregon, with Talent in Phoenix, we were hoping to get together a truck of supplies that are actually needed and get it down to people who are in need. So I don't know how much cash we could get together. I know money is a big thing right now, but if anybody needs help, we are here and ready to get to work.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everybody, for having us on. I'm Benjamin. I'm with Willamette Action Collective. You heard from Cassandra earlier, who's also a part of our group. We're relatively new, but a few of us have been organizing in Oregon for a while. I'm in Portland, and then I just want to emphasize that link that Cassandra dropped that I think it'll sound like will be in notes, where anybody, organizations, or individuals can fill out that saying this is what we need. And it's an opportunity for then other people to buy something and ship it directly to you as an organization or an individual or a family you all know about who have been affected by the fires. So that that link that's earlier in our chat that sounds like we'll go out in the notes will be really useful for that. The Willamette Action Collective, we have groups in Portland, Salem, and Eugene, and our building looks like one in Ashland, and we will have the capacity to drive to you. We just yesterday finished a drive down to Ashland where there was a group, I think 160 families, migrant farm workers that had been displaced and had just kind of like fallen in the cracks and weren't getting the help they needed, you know, and we were able to drive down there. So something we're trying to, you know, be aware of is groups that have fallen through the cracks. And you can contact us. You can send us an email, willametteactioncollective@gmail.com. And then one other thing I wanted to speak to, I think it was Alice, you were talking about helping farmers reestablish their crops after this. And please shoot us an email. You know, we do a lot of work with small farmers. A bunch of us are small farmers in the Eugene area. And I think that's something we might be really interested in helping out with too. So part of the reason I think we exist is to try to help bring the resources out of Portland, make the rest of the state aware of everything else that's going on, you know, really build that analysis so we can all work together, because I think Portland, as an example, has a lot of potential allies for everybody that want to help, you know, and it's just a matter of making people aware and finding out how they can do that. So really appreciate everybody helping me learn today. Thanks for having us.
And thanks so much, everyone, for joining. We just have a few more minutes, so please drop in the chat box if you can, one thing that you're taking away or one thing that you're excited to keep chewing on with folks all over the state. We are taking this feedback, particularly from folks that are most impacted, to see where our focus should be and how the network can be working to make this response as powerful and as effective as possible. We'll be sharing out the recording and any links in here. If you don't know where the chat box is, you should see it at the bottom of your screen. There's a little menu bar. If it's not there, try the more button that has 3 dots. We'd love to hear just quick thoughts from folks about what are you still chewing on? What do you wish that we had 30 more minutes to dig into together? Because we've been doing calls like this since regularly since the beginning of the pandemic and before that, whenever we needed to. So happy to continue making this space available as to make sure that folks across the state and across the network can be connecting and problem solving and brainstorming together, and sharing strategies. So really appreciate everyone taking the time tonight, and stay safe out there. Oh, we got a lot of stuff coming in. This is great. Connecting on demands for the state, rural, year-round crisis response, building power is something someone's chewing on. A lot of thanks and appreciation coming in. Emergency preparedness, moving forward with emergency preparedness. Getting connected to folks in Washington. We're certainly not the only state dealing with fires. Great, well, keep them coming. If you want to text us instead, we love hearing from everyone in the network. Send us an email, shoot us a text, give us a call. We'd love to help in whatever work that you're doing or get you connected to other folks that are doing work in your area. Just one more time, so appreciate everybody's commitment to your communities and to making the best of this really hard situation.